Sabadi everybody. I recently did a video that gave a personal critique of a comprehensive financial plan that I paid $3,000 for from a professional financial planner. I highly recommend that you watch that video first. I took it a step further and I decided to feed the entire financial plan along with 2 rounds of follow-up Q&A that I had with the planner, and I put them into AI, and I gave it one simple prompt. I want you to forget everything we've ever discussed and give me your raw, unfiltered thoughts, and don't hold back. So as an early retiree at the age of 56 and living on a modest budget here in Laos with my wife, my financial situation isn't standard. I have massive exposure to US stocks. I have virtually no assets in the US and everything I own in Laos. Overall breakdown of exactly what AI loved about it and what it was doubtful about, and where it thinks that my human advisor missed the mark. You are looking at my original financial plan. But first, let's look at what Gemini thought the plan got right. AI immediately highlighted the tax optimization strategy as a major win. My advisor constructed a strategy aiming for 0% effective federal tax rate. And AI noted that when 82% of your net worth sits in taxable brokerages like mine does, tax management isn't just a minor detail, it is everything. So systematically harvesting capital gains with 0% bracket while keeping my lifetime tax bill at 0, and I need to fully take advantage of that where I can. So scrolling down to where the 3-bucket strategy is recommended in the blueprint. So AI says that the short-term wedge gap of $97,000 is for immediate expenses, although this was an error by the planner. He had me down your first year bucket as $97,000. And it was completely wrong, and I argued him with it. What he did was he took what I had for my budget for the year, and then he added in some wish list items that I said are not necessary. They're just only if I can manage to do it at some point. They didn't have to be done this year. But what he did was he put it all in the first year, and that came to $97,000. And I never intended to spend that. So bucket 2 is the medium bucket. That's $144,000, which is fine. And then bucket 3 is the remainder. So AI said that for an early retiree at 56, it's expecting me to have a 30 to 40 year retirement timeline. I put myself down to live to 85 and my wife to 90. So I do need growth stocks, but I also need a firewall, so I'm not forced to sell equities during a market crash. So the bucket approach bridges that gap. But here is where AI started digging deeper and got critical. It's this 9.14% initial withdrawal rate my planner has for me on the first page, 9.4%. You know, anything about the standard 4% rule of retirement, seeing a 9% withdrawal rate is usually a code red emergency. This is not normal. The plan does note that this rate does drop and stabilizes at around 5.5% once I start claiming Social Security at around 62, because at this point I'm only 56, but I do think I probably will start claiming at 62. I don't see any reason to wait. Social Security is not much for me anyway. But Gemini pointed out 9% withdrawal rate over the next 6 years leaves me very vulnerable. In 5 years I'd be eating 3/4 of my portfolio. It's just not possible. AI is only reading this at face value, and it says 9% withdrawal rate could permanently damage the principal of my portfolio before Social Security even kicks in. So that one is pretty obvious. So to combat this, the plan relies heavily on the guardrails methodology, the Geiten-Klinger guardrail system. This tells you to cut your spending if the market drops, and this tells you to increase your spending if the market increases. But Gemini threw a red flag here and asked, are these guardrails realistic for an expat lifestyle? Because when you live abroad, fixed costs like international private health insurance, visas, and travel back home cannot easily be cut by 10 or 20% on a win. I'm paying for my full insurance. Flights, yeah, I can. I think AI overreacted there. So the next major critique from AI was about asset allocation and what it calls the friction of over-optimization. So down here at the asset allocation, my portfolio is heavily concentrated, over 93% of it in U.S. stocks, specifically, big tech. I started investing back in 2020, and then more seriously did better investing after 2022. I was setting myself up for the tech run, the AI run, before it actually even started. But my CFP flagged this as a massive risk and recommended immediately selling off $144,000 worth of specific assets, along with liquidating my gold, crypto, so that I could build up a massive buffer for this next year. Meaning this was back in March. I got this portfolio back in February. So this is a list of my assets here. He listed all of the assets and what I should sell to maximize the 0% tax strategy and build up my buffer. What does AI think about this? The advisor is trying to move me from an ultra aggressive portfolio, 93% in stocks, to a much more conservative fixed income model way too quickly. But AI noted that while diversification is structurally correct, there is a psychological cost here. Forcing an investor who is comfortable with high growth tech volatility to suddenly hold a massive chunk of their net worth in low yield savings and CDs and high yield savings, this can cause a lot of friction mentally for me. So AI's perspective is prioritize peace of mind and structural simplicity over chasing every little last penny of yield. What was the ultimate verdict of AI? Gemini looked at this plan and sees this is a balancing act. It's mathematically very good for tax avoidance, but it operates on a margin for error due to the fact that it's front-loaded withdrawal rate of 9%. So if I experience a prolonged bull market, that this plan will look good, and my tech stocks will power forward. I'll harvest gains at 0% tax rate, and my cash reserves will fill up naturally. But if a bear market hits tomorrow or even within the next year, the plan forces me to either cut an already modest budget, and I'm trying to get my budget down to $50,000 this year, or aggressively drain my tech winners at the absolute worst time. So when this came out, this was in March when the market was tanking, and my portfolio went down almost 15% compared to the S&P 12% in the beginning of April. So AI said, just reminding me that it's my behavior and my psychological side of this, that this is what I need to manage. Do you think the 9% initial withdrawal rate was pretty reckless? I questioned this with the planner when at one of my first Q&A, and I asked him to redo the plan, and he didn't. He said it's a once and done thing. I was a bit miffed about this. AI is just a tool. The human factor is also a tool. When you combine the two, you can do something pretty good. And I'll just add, I really encourage you to look at my last video. I did it a few weeks ago. It was a critique of my plan and what I thought was wrong with it. But generally, my finances are pretty straightforward. And my first year is very unusual. I got forced into early retirement. My biggest weakness coming into this year was I didn't have a cash bucket for 2 to 3 years. This is what I've been trying to manage so far this year, is building up the cash bucket within reason, because if I would have done what the planner wanted me to do back in March, I would have been selling at this year's lows. He didn't know that we were going to have a drop like that we did, but I suspected that the market was going to rebound, and it did massively. And I'm really glad I held off. In the next 2 or 3 months, not only did we regain all of those losses in the first quarter, but got another 15% on top of that. It has pulled back since then, and the market is still pretty volatile, but I do expect this year to end pretty high. And so I am very gradually building up that cash one bucket. I will be going over the 0% tax bracket because I'm selling some positions at massive gains. It's a high quality problem to have. But this is a juggling act, and I'm hoping by the end of the year I will have at least 1.5 years of reserves in bucket one ready, because I do think things will still look pretty good going into next year. And early next year, I will definitely take advantage of that 0% tax bracket sooner. I need my portfolio to grow, because the big thing with this planner's plan was it's giving me a 50% chance of success, and that's not good. I didn't retire with $1 million, so I'm not in the position where I would have preferred to be at this point. It is what it is, and I got to try and manage what I can. But a couple things that Gemini did not address on my plan. It did not comment on any of my living abroad scenarios or situations or points, like the visas and taxes and health insurance and things that are very specific to me. It did not make any comment about specific things to my expat status. It did not mention anything about specific investments, and it didn't give me any advice on withdrawal rate. It didn't give me any kind of percentages, just critiqued what was in the actual plan. Again, I think the financial plan, this was a product that was more expensive than it should have been for me, given my situation. AI did highlight the biggest takeaway from the plan that I thought also was good, but it also is advice that's out there that's free. I said before, you don't know what you don't know. So you just kind of need to know what to look at. So any warnings to people who have not retired yet, get your first year, 2, 3 years, whatever you're comfortable with, get that bucket ready. You don't want to go into retirement worrying about the market and trying to catch up. It's the biggest thing that would have made a big difference for me now. Then if I have time to let the market do what it does, and then just a much more relaxed way of trying to plan. What do you think of this? Have you ever run your plan through AI? Do you use AI to try and manage your finances? Or I also use Bolden. So take care, everybody. God bless. And